Joining us now, without further ado, Congressman, Republican, Texas 1st District, Louie Gohmert. Congressman, it's been too long. Great to have you, man.
Great to be with you again, John. Thank you.
You are the antidote to the swamp in D.C. There's no question about it.
You're being way too kind, and I was afraid that my passion may have gotten away with me yesterday, and I haven't heard a replay of what I said, but, you know, this saying has been for decades, never again. John, that means never again, and we took a condemnation of anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic remarks by Congresswoman Omar and completely eliminated condemnation of her remarks, and now and added condemnation of anti-Muslim remarks, and then it was pulled and added other things. They even, in the 7 or 8 pages, mentioned Christian. They finally added that in the last iteration of this resolution. The one they didn't get in there, they got in just about everything else, but they didn't get in hatred for people wearing Make America Great Again hats. But just about every other form of hatred got in there. And John, that means we didn't condemn the anti-Jewish remarks. And it did, you know, the killing of 6 million Jews didn't just start in 1933 when they loaded up a train headed for Dachau. It started before that with anti-Jewish remarks, anti-Semitic remarks, and it built to the point that, well, people didn't condemn them. And once they didn't condemn them, it got bigger and bigger. Never again should have meant never again. We should not tolerate that kind of thing starting. And yet here it is, and I think it's to the eternal shame of the United States Congress. We let never again start this week. It's really humiliating.
Well, Congressman Gohmert, the other thing that was very depressing about this is it started out as a resolution condemning the comments made, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic comments made by Representative Omar. It turned into basically a come catch all. She never got rebuked. Her name was never even mentioned in the resolution or her comments. And then to add insult to injury, nothing happened to her. Now, juxtapose that, Congressman, against ill-advised and dumb comments that your colleague from Iowa, Steve King, made a couple weeks ago. Your caucus threw him out of all his committees. Yeah,
and actually, we didn't get the whole quote. It was taken out of context, but never mind that. He was removed from committees, this kind of thing, and he didn't really get a fair shake on exactly what he said. But here, her comments, there was no question, they were extremely anti-Semitic. And now, because we watered it down and didn't condemn her comments at all, and she got all that language added about anti-Muslim bigotry, never mind we didn't include anti-United States bigotry like we saw on 9/11 or in San Diego or, you know, in the Boston bombing or Orlando. No, we didn't call any of that out. So now she today, Congresswoman Omar, is taking a victory lap and saying, gee, we can, for the first time, we finally condemned anti-Muslim comments. Yeah, nobody should be making broad stroke slurs against Muslims at all. But now it's as if you say Congresswoman Omar made terrible comments, now you're subject, according to this resolution, for condemnation because she says, oh, you're calling me out because I'm Muslim. No, calling you out because you made some very hateful anti-Semitic comments. But she got protection, not condemnation, in this resolution. It's outrageous.
It really is. I'm going to go to your clip here that you said yesterday in the well, Congressman Gohmert, if you would bear with us for 1 second. We're with Congressman Louie Gohmert. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network. Republican, Texas 1st District, former judge. If you can indulge us here, Congressman Gohmert, we're going to go to a clip from your speech in the well yesterday on this topic. May I?
Sure.
All right.
I haven't heard it.
Louie Gohmert, here we go.
Guys. Thank you, Speaker. According to Proverbs, something that people who are practicing Jews and Christians believe, says there are 7 things that are detestable to the Lord. One is haughty eyes, another lying tongue, another hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict within the community. It goes so far as to say these are things the Lord hates. So the word hate is not wrong in the Jewish and Christian tradition, but anything beyond this is wrong. And yes, there have been persecution of Christians, there have been persecution of Muslims, but anybody who has persecuted a people in the name of Christianity was not acting as a Christian. That is not part of the faith. But what makes this so dangerous, and the reason I will vote against this resolution, is because we came here because of an anti-Semitic remark. And we came here to condemn anti-Semitism. But this resolution, as changed up over the last hour, now condemns just about everything. And the reason that is so dangerous is that anti-Semitism, hatred for the children of Israel, is a very special kind of hatred that should never be watered down. There has never been a persecution of a people like the Jewish people from 1930. 1945, over 6 million killed. And it started with little things, hateful remarks made about the children of Israel that grew and grew. And as if it was okay because it was made by somebody who had a grudge, it was let go and it built until it led to the death of 6 million Jews. And we have to say, no, we will not let it go on. And that's why I'll vote against it. It's watered down the sentiment.
Congressman Louie Gohmert, that was his comments yesterday in the well on this resolution. Hearing that back, Congressman, any comment on what you said? It was a pretty compelling statement.
Well, thank you. My passion kind of ran away with me. It just started pouring out because never again means you don't let it start. And it has started this week, John. It started in prior weeks, and we let that go. And hear the anti-Jewish statements again and again, we let them go. This is how a Holocaust starts. You can't let it start the way Congress has actually all of this year since we first got started. These kind of comments have been coming out, and we have said, we're letting that go. It's okay. No, it's not okay. You can't let it start the way Congress has. And I wish people would rise up across the nation about the anti-Jewish sentiment that's being expressed here in Washington by elected members of Congress. But boy, we sure didn't stand up for anything yesterday. It's really embarrassing. It's scary to me, actually.
Congressman, let me ask you this. Where are the Democrats going with this? I mean, they're your colleagues. There's some level-headed people in there. But it seems like their caucus, Congressman Gohmert, has been hijacked by this really left-wing whack job element of people, AOC, Congressman Tlaib, Congressman Omar. Where's this going, sir?
Well, it's a good question. That's my great fear and concern, not for me, but for this country, because, it only goes on so long. Unfortunately, it went on for 12 years, actually longer than that, but the killing started in 1933 in Dachau. But I'm quite concerned for the country I love, this path that we've been going down with no apparent ability by the elected Democratic leaders to stop it. And instead, it made it sound like a tribute. this week to somebody who had started this Congress down this anti-Semitic road. It scares me for my country.
Let's move forward, sir, because you're right. I mean, this was supposed to be a rebuke on the comments, the anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish comments made by Representative Omar, and it turned into her heralding the resolution as indicting all hate speech and putting the Muslim, and her name was never even mentioned. I mean, this was so incredible about it. It just turned into something exact opposite, and now that particular representative from Minnesota doing a victory lap. It just defies all logic and decency. What is going on?
Because of the wording, John. Because of the wording in this resolution, it says it acknowledges the harm suffered by Muslims and others from the harassment, discrimination, and violence that result from anti-Muslim bigotry. So it actually defends Congresswoman Omar and gives her basis from the resolution's own language that if you condemn her for something she says that's anti-Semitic, then you're an anti-Muslim bigot, and that's not true. You can condemn somebody's comments without condemning an entire faith or race.
Unbelievable. We're with Congressman, Texas 1st District Republican Louie Gohmert. He is the antidote to the swamp. Best thing that Congressman Gohmert and I have in common is both of us get the hell out of Washington on a Friday. That is the best thing about being there, is getting out. And you go back to Texas, I go back to Virginia Beach here, God's country in Southeast Virginia. I mean, 5 days of that is all I can take. It really is.
Well, you're very kind, John. That's why I love talking to you. I appreciate it so much. You've got the truth serum in your favor going, and I appreciate it so very much.
Well, thank you, Congressman. All right, look, we got to get to the Mueller investigation. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up, Congressman. So now, so here's what's happening. You're a judge, right? So you get all this.
You bet.
So it's all leaked out. We all know that there's nothing in the Mueller investigation about collusion or anything else. In fact, almost everybody that has any knowledge of it that's leaked out has said there's nothing there, is a big downer for the Democrats that want to impeach the president. Yet, the Democrats are saying, well, for a year, 2 years, they said how great Mueller was. He was the best investigator in the history of all investigators in the history of the galaxy. He was the best investigator ever. Leave him alone. Now that he hasn't found anything, they're saying, well, you know, maybe he's really not that good. We have to do our own investigations. Now we're subpoenaing the president, 8 committees in charge of finding a crime. Now you've got another Congresswoman, I think it's Rashida Tlaib. She's going to bring impeachment papers on the president, impeaching him for the fact that he won the election because there's no crime. Congressman, what is going on here?
Well, you know what's going on. It is a coup that is being conducted. You know, thankfully, George Washington was able to suppress the early desires and efforts and plots to have a military coup early in our country's history. But, man, it's exactly what it is. President was duly elected under the laws of the United States, and even going back to 2016 before he was elected, we now find out the plot was being hatched, and the Department of Justice and our intelligence was being utilized to try to prevent a person from being elected president, and knowing that this would be the insurance policy just in case the unthinkable happened and Donald J. Trump was elected president. So you can go back to 2007. Glenn Simpson, April 17, 2007, wrote an article about undue influence by Russia in our elections and here in the U.S., and 9 years later, they needed something to try to blame on Trump. So he basically brought back this article he had written 9 years before, throws Trump into the mix, and says, oh, it's Trump in Russia. It was all a complete fabrication. And, you know, as you mentioned, I was a felony judge in Texas. I do believe that if people have committed crimes like that, like Manafort did, that they should be punished. But it is a bit ironic that if he had not helped the Trump campaign for 3 months, it appears clear he would never have been pursued. He never would have been convicted, and now he would not be doing time in prison if he had not helped the Trump campaign. This was all an effort. Mueller has made clear when he wants to nail somebody, he always gets his person. Unfortunately, he's gone after innocent people like Ted Stevens, having his FBI pursue and manufacture a case that was non-existent, of which he was completely innocent. He went after the wrong man over the anthrax scare, the deaths, and never apologizes for destroying the lives of innocent people. And he's the guy he hires, Rosenstein hires him 24 hours after he was begging Donald Trump for a job again as director of the FBI. There's nobody, because of his investigation as head of the FBI into Russian efforts to illegally get our uranium. He was conflicted. He should have never been allowed anywhere near a special prosecutor job. But 24 hours later, he gets to go after and try to destroy the man who refused to hire him again as director of the FBI. What's going on is a travesty there. And, who knows? That could be ultimately successful in having a congressional coup in destroying a duly elected president. They've sure been given everything they got, but I am embarrassed for Congress again. I mean, it's not just this week. What's been going on all year is a travesty, and it's apparently going to continue.
Congressman Louie Gohmert with us, Republican 1st District of Texas, former judge. And Congressman, you are so right about this. It is an embarrassment. And the fact that we have a representative saying that she's going to file impeachment papers next week on the president, and there's no crime. I mean, there's no high crime or misdemeanor. It's just like impeachment based on what? I mean, it's almost as if they are walking in and out of the Cartoon Network. It is so ridiculous.
Well, John, you may have seen there. Some of the Democrats are saying, "Oh no, they think that Trump might try to start a civil war if they try to impeach him." No, what they're missing is they started a civil war, and as somebody once said, the last phase of a civil war involves guns. And these people have created a civil war. They're trying to upend a proper election, and it's got to stop. It's just got to stop.
So, Congressman, look, I, as you know, was the Trump chairman of Virginia, one of the first people on his campaign when it started in early 2015. I don't have any doubt he's going to win again. I mean, you look at the numbers. Mark Penn, for instance, Democratic pollster, just did a poll the other day, 58% of Americans, according to the Democratic poll, say that the president is doing a great job with the economy. He's going to win again. What are they going to do when this guy wins again?
Well, they are increasingly getting more and more desperate, and like I say, they've got to stop before we hit that last phase, because they've already inspired violence against Trump. We know, finally found out because of some undercover taping, that it was the Democrats that paid for violence to start at Donald Trump rallies. You remember those days.
Yep.
Violence would break out, and they say, "Look, this is what this guy all about, is violence." Right. And they were the very people that paid for the violence to start.
It's really incredible.
I encourage Jeff Sessions to go after that. That's an organized criminal activity. But unfortunately, that never happened. That was never pursued. And so that kind of gearing up and actually projecting, they do an activity, they collude with Russia, conspire with Russia, help Russia get about 20% or so of our uranium, And then they blame Trump for conspiring. Well, no, colluding, which is not a crime. So it's just incredible. They do illegal, improper activity in the Democratic side and then project it onto somebody like Donald Trump. It's got to stop before it goes so far to the final phase of use of guns. They have to stop this. They can't apparently see what they're doing, but it's not healthy for the little self-government experiment that started over 200 years ago.
Unbelievable. We're out of time.